Welcome to this session on AHA's new content and care plan delivery system. My name is Pat Dunn, and I'm the Program Director for Connected Health for the Center for Health Technology and Innovation. And I'm joined by Patrick Waite, who is our leader, the leader of our Center for Health Technology and Innovation, David Fung and Christina Aldridge from our Business Technology Services, who we've been working very closely with on this project, along with our Heart Bangalore team. And finally, Sri Vasaridi, the CEO of the RAIN Foundation, who in this case represents the voice of the customer for how these care plans can be integrated directly into third-party platforms. The care plan concept was originated over a decade ago under Patrick Waite's leadership in coordination with the development of Life Simple 7, My Life Check, Heart 360, and have been developed by leading AHA volunteers and have been approved by AHA Science. These plans provide value due to AHA's trusted brand for both patients and healthcare professionals. We've created a standardized platform and process focused on health literacy and self-care skills. And for the first time, we have a true B2B model for delivering our content in a one-to-many system. This system allows us to have max control. No more spreadsheets or drop boxes. And the content can be quickly and easily updated as new guidelines and science emerge. The purpose of this session is to provide an overview of this new content and care plan delivery system, including what problem are we trying to solve, a description of the program, a demonstration of our new API-enabled delivery system, and some examples of how the system is being used. So I'd like to bring Patrick Waite here into the conversation to say a few words, and I'll pull up his slides.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate that. And again, I'm Patrick Waite. I run the American Heart Association Center for Health Tech and Innovation. And, you know, one of the things that really brought us to this entity, this center, was trying to understand, as a science-based organization, how to come to grips with the wide-ranging and fast-moving technology, digital health, telehealth marketplace. And we struggled a little bit. We struggled to understand what the AHA's role could be or should be, and what type of evidence we should bring to the marketplace. And we spent, as Pat noted, the better part of a decade exploring our own digital health apps and solutions, running a wide range of studies in heart failure and hypertension, building solutions on all the major platforms at the time with Microsoft and Google and Qualcomm, a number of others, and proving to ourselves in no uncertain terms that digital health technologies, if you will, in all their various forms, could have a significant impact, a meaningful impact on health impact, on health education, if you will, and also all the way to health economics and measurable health outcomes for patients, consumers, and their families, as well as enabling providers to reach many more patients in an exception management one-to-many model over long periods of time. Very exciting for us to come to that conclusion and consider then the next step, which practically is how would we do this? We're not totally a technology company, but you're going to hear a lot about the wonderful collaboration we've been doing with our own internal technology group and beyond to get where we are, and we'll show some of that later. But we had to find a way fundamentally to relate to this marketplace, as Pat noted, to bring our brand, our science, and our focus on outcomes more broadly into the space, and to do this in a scalable, practical, and to a certain extent, a business-like way. Next slide, Pat. So I think for the purposes of what we're trying to do at the center, fundamentally is we're trying to bridge science and technology, and again, to bring our trusted science, our trusted brand, and our focus on health outcomes squarely and firmly into the marketplace to aid and align with the digital health, health tech, telehealth marketplace, again, in all of its various forms, and to see what good we could do together at scale. Next slide, Pat. And so fundamentally what we did with Pat's leadership and a number of key volunteers and AHA staff science is essentially to begin to break down the science into what we think of as care plans, daily, weekly, monthly plans of care. And Pat will talk a good deal more about that in later phase of the presentation, and try to align that again systematically with the technology platforms, typically where the companies are doing remote patient monitoring or some variation of that, where they're reaching patients or trying to at scale, and creating a front-end system for patients, families, and consumers, and a back-end system, again, for some kind of data analysis, monitoring, and outreach on the other side. And we began to establish business relationships, knowing we needed to do this, again, in a collaborative and a business-like fashion, with a number of companies noted here: Happify, Livongo, Bioformus, BioIntelligence, just to name a few. And the next slide gives you a much better sense of these companies. Effectively, what we created is a innovators network, a health tech collaborative is another way to say it, or a collaboratory, inviting companies to come and join the AHA through the auspices of our Center for Health Tech and Innovation, and to work with them over time to apply this digital science. And if we really think about the major opportunities here, we're struck by the extraordinary amount of investment that is going in and flowing into these companies, really all over the world, but certainly we see it in the United States. And the ability for these very bright, hardworking, technologically advanced players to move quickly in the marketplace to solve problems that are important and interesting to us in heart failure and hypertension and diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and so on and so forth. And it's really with it working in lockstep with these companies that we hope to change the face of cardiovascular and stroke care, both from a primary prevention point of view, but also from a secondary prevention point of view, and long-term care and chronic care and aging. And that's really the promise of what we're trying to do, and the opportunity and the focus for the center. And with that, I'll pause and allow my colleagues to talk more about the infrastructure that we've created to allow this broad-scale distribution of digital science, and also the content and the care plans themselves, how they were constructed, how we are delivering them. And then with Shree's help, thinking about what does this really mean? What are the practical manifestations of these systems and digital science coming together to do well and to do good together in the marketplace? Thanks.
Thanks, Patrick. I'd like to bring David Fung into the conversation here. This is not strictly a science play. It's not strictly a business play. There's also a technology component. Can you say maybe a little bit about the role of our own internal BT and how we're working kind of as a bridge between our science and then these third-party technology platforms?
Great, thanks, Pat. And Patrick gave a great introduction in regards to kind of all the pieces we look at. You know, really, as we look at from a technology piece, and again, we're not a health tech organization, but we definitely look to see are there assets that we need to build that fill in gaps there as well. And really, when we look at these assets, you know, how can we build these things that can create a frictionless environment and really assist in delivering our science out to everywhere else, which is really our biggest asset there as well. These things will allow us to remove the geographic and economic barriers that we have. Christina will be showing a lot in regards to all the pieces that are there as well, and really helps us drive toward our impact goal of 2024, where to make sure that every person deserves opportunity for a full and healthy life. We build everything to be scalable, open, and available to use, to make sure that all the pieces in the ecosystem can work together, and ideally people like Ream Foundation can build the larger pieces, but we can build the pieces that can really complete the pieces of the puzzle there as well.
Thanks, David. So Christina and I are going to show you two parts of this system. But before we do that, I'm going to go back and just give you a little bit more background on what we're talking about in the first place. There we go. So the CHTI's efforts sit squarely at the intersection of science and scalable digital technology and are part of our larger mission-aligned business with an emphasis on the strategic pillar of leading breakthroughs in science and technology. This approach is aligned with language taken directly from our own guidelines, which advocate for that patients require education and self-care support after discharge, that care coordination should pay attention to care transitions, that every patient should receive a clear and detailed plan of care, and the remote patient monitoring may serve as a vital conduit for improving health outcomes. So what problem are we trying to solve? Ultimately, successful treatment of heart disease requires a high level of involvement on the part of the patient. Despite amazing breakthroughs in the diagnosis and treatment of cardiovascular disease and stroke, there are still large challenges once the patient leaves the healthcare setting. These include lower utilization of prevention-based programs such as cardiac rehab, high rates of readmission following cardiovascular events or a diagnosis of, say, heart failure, low rates of control for risk factors such as blood pressure and cholesterol, low rates of compliance with guideline-directed medical therapy and lifestyle interventions, and high rates of mental health conditions. These challenges also include many social inequities and have been further exposed by the pandemic. Technology has the potential to improve access to care, but it can also create a larger, deeper digital divide. Over the past several years, we have seen an explosion in the growth of the digital health market. There are over 400,000 health-related apps in the app stores. Tech companies have become the largest and wealthiest companies in the world, and investment in digital health has increased dramatically, and this has only been accelerated by the pandemic. The world has moved from print to digital to the internet and now to mobile. And this represents the next generation of how AHA science can be delivered, reaching millions of patients. We also know there are many gaps. Frankly, while the technology is improving, health-related technology has continued to lag behind other industries, such as financial services and retail. Many people use online banking and e-commerce sites, such as Amazon, but do not use technologies to manage their own health. The tech world needs us to help get the science right, both cardiovascular and behavioral science, and to do it in an equitable manner. The key elements for digital health outcomes include having a trusted source of science and a science-based approach. And this is our primary role that we play. Having a connection to a healthcare delivery system, a secure technology and platform that can reach large groups, an intuitive consumer-facing interface, which is typically a combination of wearables, devices, and apps, and a way to continuously monitor data, both biometric and psychometric. The purpose of our intelligent health solutions is to translate AHA guidelines and statements into evidence-based and science-based care plans designed to improve compliance and engagement and to scale to large market segments. The digital coaching system includes a translation from guidelines into action plans using best practices in health coaching, such as active listening and goal setting, digital health literacy by helping the users understand key terms and numbers, and techniques derived from motivational interviewing, such as challenges and reflections, and psychographic segmentation to create a highly personalized plan. The coaching plan is designed to support both the healthcare professional and the patient. So what is a care plan? It is a translation of AHA guidelines and scientific statements into actionable steps for patients to build the knowledge and skill they need to manage their health and are optimized for digital tools. So our engagement cube consists of condition pathways, the risk factors and behaviors, and the personal factors related to their health. And all of these are designed to make it a personalized experience and designed to achieve patient-centered outcomes. The care plans are now delivered through an API-enabled system that we have built with Heart Bangalore. The system allows for program APIs to deliver care plans, as well as content APIs designed to deliver virtually any type of digital asset. So my role here is really to kind of coordinate between the science team, our business opportunities, and the technology team. The strategy is to deliver these plans through an API-enabled system to third-party platforms that will present the care plans to their users. The application programming interface, or API, is the technical way that the digital content is delivered from our system to these third-party platforms. The content includes a combination of static content, such as videos, articles, messages, and dynamic content, including assessments, quizzes, action plans, and a digital coaching system that allows for the care plans to be delivered in different ways, depending on the preferences and characteristics of the patient. So what makes our care plans actionable? Each content asset is tagged by the content and condition category, the care plan that it's associated with, the coaching strategy, the level of content, language, and health literacy. And each asset is sequenced, indicating the order of flow and how dependent and coupled the content is with specific guidelines. So let me show you. So what you see now is our dashboard, and you can see it lists the number of contents and assets, the number of care plans. I can click here, and this is going to just provide a list, literally, of all of these different content assets. It shows the code, the name, the type, and the sequence or order that it flows within these care plans. I can click on the back end and get more metadata, including the review dates, the codes, the IDs, all of the stuff that the technical people will need, which Christina will show you in a moment. The links, both internal and external links. And in this case, this is a video that we have a transcript of. So we also have a printed version of this, and we have it in multiple languages. We have the ability to move to other languages, and those languages are simply appended to this back end. And we have a tagging system that includes the type, the structure, including the category, the coaching plan, the care plans that it's associated with, as well as the specific content that is addressed within each of these content assets. If I click back here, I can then filter by these different plans. So if I want to say, click on the cardiac rehab care plan. So it'll pull this plan up in sequence. It's designed to be modular. So if that patient has diabetes or say something like atrial fib, then the care plan can build on top of one another so that you don't have to either ignore or have multiple plans. You can also capture this by categories. So if you're looking for, say, blood pressure content, then you can click if you want cholesterol, if you want stuff on medications. So that's how the category works. And finally, we have a group by level. So we have 2 patient or user groups, basic and advanced. And we also have content that is designed for the professional, which is really a verbatim reflection of what's in our guidelines and scientific statements. And with this system, it should be easier to pull up that content. We can also categorize by the different content types. So if you're looking for messages or videos, it's easy to pull it up that way. And then finally, by coaching strategy. So we know this is not a one-size-fits-all. So we have different configurations of these care plans based on where that person is. If they're not very engaged and hard to motivate, then we have a different strategy for somebody who's really, really engaged. We're trying to get to the same place, but it's with a different configuration, different types of content, and at a different pace. And then the last thing I'll show you is the care plans themselves. You can click and just walk through. So I'll use the core plan. The core plan is based on Life Simple 7. And if you think about those 7 categories of activity, nutrition, weight, tobacco, cholesterol, blood pressure, and glucose, those are really categories that kind of cross all conditions. Of course, because they're conditions, we've also added a section for medications and a section for mental health. And the way this works then is you can click through and you can just step through day by day how these plans work. And you can see that some days have more activities than others. We front load activities into the front part of the week because some solutions are more work on more of a weekly task list, whereas others it's more of a daily encounter. So it's designed to work with multiple types. That's the opportunity and the challenge. The fun part is that we're not designing this for any one specific system. We're designing this for different types of technology platforms. Some are wearables, some are mental health platforms, some are more traditional cognitive and educational based behavior change platforms. Some are in this new category of digital therapeutics. So again, this is really the back end, the logic. What you're seeing, what I'm showing you is the content. I'm going to now turn it over to Christina, and she's going to show you more of the back end technology component of this.
Thanks, Pat. 1 second to share my screen. So let's start with what is an API, right? So an API is an application programming interface. It's a set of rules that allow programs to talk to each other. The developer creates the API on the server and allows the client to talk to it. So let's take a restaurant, for example. You go to a restaurant as a customer, you're not allowed to enter the kitchen, which here represents the database. You need to know what is available. For that, you have the menu, or in this case, a reference for the data format that external systems must use to perform their operation. After looking at the menu, you make an order or a single API call to a waiter, a middleman. This is the API, who passes it to the kitchen and who will then deliver what you have asked for. The waiter can only deliver what the kitchen can provide. The care plan system enables third-party access to American Heart Association's content and programs in a secured way using token-based authentication. So to start, we'll walk through the steps to access the API. Step 1 is to obtain a client credentials from the American Heart Association. These include a client ID and a client secret that are known to both the care plan system and the third-party application. I already have a client ID and client secret, so step 2 is to obtain an access token from the care plan's authorization server. So before a third-party application can access private data using the care plan system, it must obtain an access token that grants access to the API. The token API is used to authenticate a client. So here, I will just enter the required information. And so by using a client ID and client secret, I should receive a response with an access token and a token expire time. So this is a successful response. So I'm going to copy the access token for the next step. For step 3, I will send the token to the care plan's API in an HTTP authorization header. So I will select authorize. Okay, so now as a third-party vendor, I have access to the content and program APIs. Next, let's look at the care plan API. So this API lists all the available care plans in the system. I won't add any filtering so that we can see them all. So as you can see in the response, we have care plans specific to heart failure, cardiac rehab, high blood pressure, just to name a few, that have daily activities for about 3 months in duration. Continuing through the program APIs, next we'll look at the enrollment API. So this API is used to enroll a participant into a particular care plan. If the participant exists, they will be enrolled in the care plan. Otherwise, the system will create the participant and then enroll them. So I will enroll a participant into the high blood pressure care plan. Here, I'll just enter the required parameters. Great. So now the participant is successfully enrolled. I will note the ID of this particular participant to use the next few API calls. So that's right here, 22. Next, we'll look at the activities list. Okay, so this API is used to fetch an enrolled participant's pending activities for the day or between a date range. Here, I'll just enter the ID from the participant we just enrolled. It's 22. So you can see that the first activity is an assessment. Have you taken your medications as prescribed? With code 2001. There's also a welcome message activity with code 10,000. Let's look at the activity details for the message activity. So this API is used to fetch complete details of a content item using an enrollment ID and a valid code. So here I'll enter the ID of the participant and the code 10,000 for the message activity. Oh, I put too many zeros. Okay, here we go. In the response, we are getting the complete content details. This one includes a welcome text in English and in Spanish. And we can do the same for assessment details. Next, let's look at the assessment with code 2001. Have you taken your medications as prescribed that we noted from the activities list API? Okay. So this API is used to fetch complete details of an assessment by enrollment ID and code. We'll put 22, code 2001. And here we can see in the response, have you taken your medications as prescribed? Depending on how the participant answers, yes or no, they will be taken through the rest of the assessment. Yes would trigger a message, great, continue to take your message as prescribed. And no would trigger the next step in the assessment. Please indicate why you are not taking your medications, and so on. So, in conclusion, the care plan system provides support. System supports two major features. Care plan workflows based on specific requests using the program API, and content sharing based on specific requests using the content API. With the ability to integrate with any API-enabled application, our scalable care plan system offers companies the opportunity to provide access to care for both patients and their families. Thank you. Back to you, Pat.
Thanks, Christina. And you can go ahead and stop your share.
Yeah, my Zoom isn't expanding. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Okay. So let me bring, okay, thank you. So how does this work? So we work with several companies that are in, as Patrick mentioned, our Innovators Network in a variety of verticals, from remote patient monitoring to digital cardiac rehab to home-based blood pressure monitoring. I want to bring Sri into the conversation now. We've been working very closely with Sri and his team. And Sri's team has been working very closely with the Heart Bangalore team. I want to give a shout out first to the Heart Bangalore team. They've been amazing partners in this experience with us, really helping to figure this out, trying to translate what is Pat thinking, trying to create all this stuff. So it's not an easy process. So, and I want to also then thank Sri and his team for also being willing to give this a try. So Sri, would you like maybe explain a little bit about how your team is using this system?
Sure. Thank you, Pat. So just quick background to why we are building what we're building is the goal of Rain Foundation is to make it very easy and convenient for the patients to consume these. And that's because the biggest problem we're trying to tackle is how can we make it a habit for them? And it's very hard for people to make things their habit unless it's very easy to consume and they see the value out of it. So if I were to work backwards from what Christina just showed, in order to keep up with the medication adherence, from a patient perspective, all I care about is taking medicines. So what we want to do is, let's say, design a water bottle with a pill compartment. The one thing that they will do is connect their water bottle to their phone. And after that, they will just be consuming their pills, and we will detect whether they have been taking those pills or not. And they will be mapped to the care plans, like all the detail that we need to be doing to coordinate that water bottle, the actions of the patient, to the app, to a backend system, has all been, just imagine as a nonprofit trying to do this, it would have taken us years. Now it's a matter of days and weeks for us to just consume science from a very reputed organization like AHA. It has been an absolute pleasure working with Christina, Heart Bangalore team, and Pat, because they understand this science. They showed us, and you saw the portal, the way it was designed. Those of you that may have tried to use the other APIs, I think you can appreciate how easy it is to browse through those APIs, understand what needs to be done for each specific, whether it's even, and it's also organized very well, organized in this 6 pillars, like medication is one, vitals management, symptom management, nutrition, stress, and exercise, activity. Right? So these are fundamental pillars, which actually, for us when we started, and I'm just basically a IT person, passionate in healthcare, but not only just the care plans, through the work with Pat and CHIT, it shaped a lot of our thinking in simplifying things for the patient. Jeff Bezos said this almost maybe 10 years ago, letter to the investors, that the world that Amazon serves is about APIs and boxes. And, it took a while for people to evolve from cloud to software as a service to APIs. If you're wondering why these unicorns are valued, API unicorns are valued in billions of dollars, it's because that's what powers the world. And we're excited that AHA leapfrogged into that world without having, not going through the cloud, SaaS, and getting here. So I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for everybody on the network. Anybody that has done this would realize that it's not the technology part that is, that is difficult. It is the content creation part. Now, if you're getting content from an organization like AHA in the API form, and a phenomenal team to support you, I mean, I don't know why waste time.
Thanks, Sri. Patrick, you've really been a pioneer in this area, going back, through this decade and more, and you've really led a lot of these efforts, even starting with, print and digital. You want to maybe comment on where we are now compared to where we were a decade ago?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. And I think that to your point and to Shree's, there has been, to some extent, a natural evolution and natural thinking here, and also a bit of a leapfrog as we've hit this next effort. Sorry, losing my voice a little bit, allergies. We've been educating patients and their families and professionals to a certain extent as guidelines refresh every couple of years for decades, and yet this only can go so far. And these traditional mediums of education, whether they be print or simple web, or even more complicated and interesting things like hospital TV and programs like Get With The Guidelines, with very exciting hospital quality improvement programs, it leaves this extraordinary gulf and opportunity to reach people where they live, which is not in front of doctors and in clinical environments for the vast majority of their lives. And the reality is we're reaching people. It's a tired expression, I grant you, where they are, which is in their daily lives, and finding ways, as Sri noted, to drive the AHA brand and science up and through a wide range of technology solutions to really provide life-saving and life-serving information in a way. This model that we have provides us a way to appropriately align with the digital health marketplace to do that at scale and really reach people where they're going to spend the vast majority of their time, which is on their own. And so allowing them through these tools to self-actualize, and also to link back into the clinical system where it's appropriate, through telehealth or through, again, connections back to their clinical and care teams. So the excitement about where we are now versus where we were is that we can do this at scale, and we're going to do it through partnerships. And I truly mean that, collaborative relationships, not in any kind of legal sense, the word partnership, but the opportunity to and the capability to work with these digital health and health tech companies is like nothing we've seen before. The last part of this, which is increasingly exciting, is that we know that while the US market is quite large, that fundamentally this is a global opportunity. And we're increasingly, with our capabilities, with our internal technology team in Hart Bangalore, able to do that with this new distribution platform. And the companies we work with are indeed global. And so that creates some very exciting opportunities as well.
Sri, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just very quick on what is that? The whatever we are building, whether you as a network or a future customer wants to provide access to this through iPhone, Android, or any bot, our consumption of this and our software is also open source. So whatever we are doing in conjunction with American Heart Association is open source and available to you. So we've made it a step further easier, and it's I think it's very handy to consume it.
Thanks, Sri. David, I noticed in your title, it's consumer technology, but also cybersecurity. Do you want to comment a little bit on the importance of having a secure platform versus the old days where we just sent people emails and Dropboxes and sent them a spreadsheet?
Yeah, absolutely, Pat. I think before I answer, if you don't mind, I think Patrick said a really important thing about how do we personalize, because if you look at the success of even technology, there's a big shift in technology when we are able to engage somebody and personalize the content there as well. I think you kind of look at this as the same way as we talk about care, because again, when things are too homogeneous, people don't get engaged because they're not sure if it's relevant. But the beauty of a tool like this, as Patrick pointed out, is the ability to personalize it to an individual's needs. So if they have multiple care needs, we can create a plan that actually covers all the needs versus having to read information on diabetes here, information on cardiovascular here. It can be consolidated in one plan and engage people, and most importantly, help them live a longer life. Back to your question, Pat. Absolutely. You know, one of the big things, and people will sometimes look at my title, you focus on the systems that actually enable business, but then you also worry about cybersecurity and risk. And it's really important that as we expand our places, and especially working with the partners that Patrick talked about, is making it secure in the first place. You know, one of the key things that we've done when we designed this particular tool is that it really doesn't share any of that personal information. A lot of that stays with the actual partners there as well. And you'll see when Christina went through it, a lot of it is really just in ID codes and information like that. So that way the security is there. Beyond that, obviously making sure that our applications are extremely secure, going through a lot of secure coding practices as well as security audits. I know Sri himself, as we were building this partnership out, there's an amount of time my cybersecurity team spent with him to ensure that even as a partner with us, how to make sure that things are secure and giving that guidance. So those are just important to deliver, but also to ensure security there as well going forward.
Thanks, David. Christina, we've mentioned Heart Bangalore a couple of times. Can you maybe give the audience a little bit more information on who Heart Bangalore is and what their role is?
Sure, Pat. Yeah. So a few years back, we created a sort of partnership with a consulting firm in India called Impulsis. And since then, we've grown to, I believe, somewhere between 150 and 200 Heart Bangalore employees over at Impulsis. So it's really a partnership between the AHA and Impulsis to have dedicated resources working on our AHA technology projects.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sri, I know one of the things you've been working on with our team is our Implement HF, which is our heart failure solution. And as David mentioned, you know, going through not only from a technology perspective, but also working really closely with our science teams, making sure that it's truly reflecting, you know, how they would like the science to be delivered to the customers. Any additional comments or thoughts on the Implement HF?
Yeah, Pat, I think, and you know, the 360-degree view that we can get into get to this. So, for example, all the way up to Dr. Jessup, who's the head of heart failure, being able to provide input on it. The business teams really looking at the practicality of what it means from both a you know, sponsor and user perspective, the focus group sessions that were held to get feedback from the users, potential users, to the support we got from Saj under David's team, guiding us through the security and compliance aspects of things that David just mentioned. And both Jalisa and Christina always continuously just making sure that we're getting responses. I must say that just in my previous life, I've worked with so many large corporations, and moving the ball forward on items like this, where your corporate touch points with security teams, with business teams, with science teams, as we all know, is not very easy. And especially coming in with AHA, I thought, oh, and this is not a first job for many people. There are lots of volunteers in this, and I was thinking, wow, will this ever get done? But it was surprisingly much faster. It's almost felt like a startup, working with this team. So I think there's a lot to gain. I'm very excited to see the heart failure come to fruition as soon as possible. It was a fun and learning experience.
We do have a question coming in. I'm a primary care provider, and the system would be awesome to engage my patients to improve their care. How do providers access the system? Patrick, can you share a little bit more about our Innovators Network and how that works?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. And the system that we've created is primarily for blending into and aligning with the digital health communities, as you and Sri and others have mentioned. And so the proper way to get access to the what you see here is actually through a range of our Innovator Network companies, companies that are actually using and applying the content, if you will, the care plans from this system. We think of as integrators. They're integrating the HA's brand and digital science into their solutions, and we'd be happy to offline provide a list of those companies and see where they might fit and align to your needs. Certainly, there are opportunities as we go forward to work more directly with hospitals, hospital systems, large primary care teams, large self-insured, and we will be doing that through demonstration projects and implementation studies, and in some instances, large-scaled relationships with one or more of the integrators. But it isn't specifically a direct access system from what you see here to immediate use or practical use by an individual doctor in that sense, or even a primary care team, but rather through one of our collaborator integrator companies.
And it is a very diverse group of platforms, some that are very focused on very specific conditions like heart failure and stroke, some that are a little bit more on the condition management space, such as diabetes and hypertension. Some are even more upstream, focusing really more on mental health and behavior modification. So there's, as they say, there's an app for that. There's a platform for that. And we can help. And that's part of the fun. Part of the role is even do a little bit of matchmaking, helping make the connections between the clinical and health system needs and the technology capabilities.
Right. If I can just add to that, I think, Andrea, the way to look at it is what exactly as from a provider perspective that you're trying to do. Are you trying to just give a means for your patients to educate themselves and do something, empower themselves on their own? Or are you trying to consistently keep up with that information into your EHR systems? And each one of it is possible, and the amount of effort that you need to put into integrate is absolutely there, and all the capabilities are there. The amount varies in terms of what you're trying to achieve. But as I said, it's significantly less compared to what you would put in without the platform here.
Thanks, Sri. Yeah, it's the third parties still have control over how the information is being presented to their customers or their users. Of course, we work with them to make sure that it's being presented in a way that is first of all, aligned with the science, but even beyond that it makes sense, that they can understand and act on that information. So again, there's, and we've realized, and Sri has experienced this too, we have very detailed and comprehensive plans, but then we also have users that say, no, I want a very simplified approach. So what his team has been able to do then is really filter out a lot of the extra information and really focus on just some key questions, to help in that case, a heart failure population. We know when we do that, it'll then revert back to, well, but what if it did this? And what about that? So those capabilities will still be there in the background, but it doesn't mean they always have to be presented. We don't have to present 3,000 assets to any one user. That would certainly be overkill. So it's really designed to be, kind of a much more personalized. Some people want a lot of content. Some people don't want a lot of content. Any additional comments from the audience or comments from the panel? Maybe just we'll go around just for maybe a final kind of concluding thoughts, and we'll start with Patrick.
Yeah, thanks, Pat, and thanks to the panelists here on this session and for your leadership, both in bringing us together here to talk about what we're doing, and but also your formative and insightful work to help the AHA really take this next critical step, which is making the guidelines, the core product in many ways of the AHA, readily accessible and applicable in the digital health and health tech space. And this is a really critical issue for three reasons. One is we extraordinary shortage of doctors and nurses, and this will continue. There's a overwhelming investment and a lot of encouraging things happening in digital health, and these solutions really need the kind of support that we can provide, evidence-based, science-based, and trusted brand to aid them. And I think the other part of it is from the AHA's point of view, we also continue to see that while we publish the guidelines, they don't get into clinical practice into the hands of patients nearly as quickly as we would like. And so digital health technologies, apps, and all their various forms do provide an opportunity to allow people and their providers to connect in a more direct way to for those solutions to be aligned with the best science, and to ultimately, if we monitor it properly and study it and show that it's working, has the ability to show better health economics and health outcomes at scale. So the promise here is very, very exciting, and we're thrilled to be where we are with the great work of this group and others that are supporting us to make this happen and to make the AHA available in a really new and exciting way. So thank you all.
David, final thought?
Great, thanks, Pat. I'd say in this time of information, if you look at this generation now, they don't know a world without Google and Wikipedia. And it's so easy to get overwhelmed with information and be able to find what's there and what's not. So I think a combination of AHA being a trusted brand, as well as a tool that allows the curation and filtering and isolation of what's important, along with innovation that's by some partners such as Ream, it really allow people to find what they need really quickly, augment with some of their personal data, and then from not personal data, but from their personal biometrics, and then from there really make sure that they do what they need to do to ensure that they have a long and healthy life there as well. So it's a really exciting piece. And I really like what Sri said, it's really about the API, because again, this is a piece of it, a very powerful piece. But again, how other people are going to use it is going to be really exciting and good to see where this goes from here on out.
Thank you. Christina?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Just looking forward, really, we have about 20 plus companies currently in our sandbox. So we're really looking forward, me and the team at Heart Bangalore, to getting more people in there, getting more feedback just so we can make it better, easier to use, and working with you to enhance this for the patients.
Sri?
No, thank you. As I said, I feel very fortunate to be working with AHA. I think it makes our mission that much more, it gave that multiplier effect to our mission, I must say. And whatever we're doing with AHA is, in my mind, just beyond heart related, because those fundamentals hold true for many health conditions to live that, happy and longer life, like David said.
Great. And I'll just make a final comment. We started our Center for Health Technology and Innovation was created about 5 years ago. And our focus has really been on really helping the tech world get the science right and really helping them to achieve that promise that digital health technology can improve health and health-related outcomes. We all know that it's possible, but we all know it's still a promise that's yet to be fulfilled. And we think this is just, maybe that next step in helping to make this something, so that my mom, who goes on Facebook and buys things on Amazon, can also use an app and a device to help her manage her blood pressure. We're not there yet, but it is possible. So with that, we'll conclude the panel. Thank you all. Hope you all have had a great sessions. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Thank you.